Hi, today I want to show you how to put together the Tunnel of Love box card from Simply Crafty SVGs. So I'd like to start with piecing together some of the insert pieces. So we'll first add this little arch. It does fit on there, you just have to make sure you get in the right place. And then we'll piece together the Tunnel of Love, and then we'll put the water next. So when you're gluing this, you just want to make sure you put little dots of glue so the glue doesn't leak through when you're gluing it onto the actual arch. And you just want to make sure as carefully, you try to get it on as best you can. It might be a little bit difficult. If for some reason white's showing, you can always ink or chalk the edges if it bothers you. It doesn't look that bad. And then we're going to piece together this little heart. So it comes in layers here, so the white part on the top, and then there are the holes in the red, so you can see the little white piece in the back. And that's going to go over those little openings here. So I would suggest just adding just a little bit of glue around those openings, making sure the glue's not too close to the openings, and placing that little white piece on the back, making sure it doesn't show or overlap on the front. So you don't want it to come down over the edge of the red heart. And the same thing with this, you want to make sure you just carefully put small amounts of glue. I'm using a fine tip applicator with art glitter glue. I'll have a link below if you're interested. You want to line up that bottom tip of the heart to the bottom of the red heart. So the white bottom tip will line up with the bottom tip of the red. So the red's just showing on the top, kind of on the outside, kind of a shadow effect just on the top and coming down. And that'll sit right there. And you could opt to put a little double-sided foam tape if you wanted it to pop up a little bit. So just line it up to the shape on the insert, and one of the reasons we have it there is to help give it some support. Then next we'll add, there's two panels for water. They go opposite ways, so just make sure you're using the right panel and just line it up. The way I make sure it's lined up is holding, kind of running along my fingers because it's the exact size. And I fold back the tabs to get it ready for next steps. And then here is the Swan Insert. So we're going to piece together the swan. You want to add glue to the back of the white piece carefully, small amounts again. You don't want it leaking through. And when you piece things together, especially when they're the same exact size like these two pieces are, I just kind of go around the edges and make sure it's situated in the right place before I really apply pressure. And we'll add that little beak. Just a little bit of glue. It fits right to the end there. It's kind of a small piece, so you just kind of have to feel it. Then if you do have a white pen, you can put a little eye in there. You could do that after you're finished. I did it before, but you might want to make sure it dries so you don't, rub it when you're trying to, you don't smear it or anything. So now I'm going to add glue to the actual insert shape of the swan shape. I'm just going down enough where it just covers the majority of it. Then again, just as we did when we were piecing it together, we just kind of want to get it in place and then make sure that it's lined up. And then apply pressure. And then we can add that top water panel, similar to the last insert. And just line it up, make sure it's centered. Make sure it's good and centered between those two score lines for the tabs too. Because you don't want it going over to the right a little bit or left. It may hinder it from opening or closing. So now we're going to put together the actual card after we put the panels on. So we'll go ahead and fold the card on the score lines. So if you need to, I have solid score lines, but if you need to apply as much force as is required to score them really well, get a good edge. And these are the pieces we're going to put on before we put together the actual card. So we're going to center these rectangular panels, and I embossed them with an embossing folder. So I had to switch glues. My fine tip applicator was running out. So to continue, I'm just using a Scotch Quick Dry tacky glue. So as far as the embossing folder goes, I will try to note which one I used if you like it in the notes. So now I just flip it over because I'm going to add these little hearts to the fold down sides. So these will bend down. Because I'm not using a fine tip applicator, you have to be careful with how much glue you put on. So we're going to put it upside down because when we fold it down, it'll be upside right. Or it kind of flaps up. It kind of just sits up. And if you don't have a fine tip applicator, or like you're using a thick glue like I am here, you could always just use your finger, or you could use a paintbrush. It'll help with small places. I would warn people to use their fingers sometimes because you could have an allergic reaction. So now we're going to flip it back over. And you can see we're just folding down those little side pieces. So this little tab here, you want to add glue to this side tab. And then line up the other piece, the edge, with the tab fold. Then we'll fold it over and add glue to the other tab. Then you'll just simply fold it over and just make sure that it's aligned, that the bottom edge is aligned, and that side edge is aligned with the tab fold. And then apply pressure to make sure it's good and dry before you go on to the next steps. So now we're going to add this panel. It's slightly smaller than the back, and then this goes on top of that. So here I'm using a really thin paper, so if you do use a liquid glue with very thin paper, it's actually copy paper that's printed, just be careful with how much glue you use. So go ahead and it'll be centered a little bit. It does line up with the bottom edge of the back piece. And just the key is that you don't want to go over any of the edges. That's all. But I lined it up to the bottom as close as I could. And then when you're gluing this on, just like you do with pieced items, you want to line it up and make sure it's in the right spot before you apply pressure. Mine ended up being a little bit off because I wasn't paying attention to one side. But it really doesn't throw too much off. You can see the little white edge there. And then right here, I'm going to put these inserts in. If you're familiar with box card inserts, this shouldn't be an issue for you. I'm going to do it a little bit differently than I normally do. So I'm folding them both in. And that's going to be the back insert. So I'm just going to carefully insert it while it's on its back. And the insert actually goes all the way to the bottom of the card. So I'm going to make sure it's lined up. Do one tab at a time. So you want that tab to be touching the back of the card. and you'll see that it's lined up with the bottom, and also it doesn't go above the side. Then I just kind of fold it down to make sure it's good and secure. And the second one, I'm going to do the same way. I'm going to just fold the tabs back though. A lot of the times I do it forward, but you can do it forward or back. Same method. We're going to want to make sure the back of those tabs actually touch the second insert, so that gives it the correct spacing. So you want to carefully put it in because you don't want glue down the sides. I actually had my tab moved a little bit. But again, you want to make sure that the bottom of the tab, you can see it's lined up almost to the bottom of the card, the opening there. Just gives it a little bit more. I wanted it to have enough structure so it would sit up and not be so flimsy. And then again, folding the card flat. Sometimes when it's still wet, that's a good idea, so you can, for some reasons, if your inserts are off a little bit, it'll adjust them. And you can see what it looks like inside. Then we're going to add the back piece. For it's optional. You could just write on the back of the card if you write sentiments. But it's just a cute little panel addition. I just rubbing the glue a little, wiping it away so it doesn't go through the openings, the cut openings. And just center it on the back. So now we're going to add this little optional panel in the front. The actual Happy Valentine's Day is stamped, a stamp I have. And I'm going to add those little hearts are from the small cutout hearts on the arch that I'm just adding a little glitter glue. But that's a blank panel that you can put any sentiment you like to add to the front of the card. So just to bling it up, just add a little clear diamond stickles glitter glue. And of course I can't really touch it after this. So that's basically the card completed, and then we'll go ahead and put together the envelope. So it's not a very common card size. It can fit in a larger envelope, but you'll see I have another version of the card. It just, you could either glue this on top of the side panels. Usually I do glue it the opposite way, but you could always put the side panels in first and then the bottom piece so it doesn't rip when it's being sent. And then either way you have the envelope to use, so you can see it fits in there. So there it is, the card and Tunnel of Love card and envelope. I enjoyed this project and I hope you did too. Thanks for watching.